Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dr. Chef. I'm Dr. Jill, and today we're going to be talking about peaches, one of my favorite summer fruits, so I'm super excited to start today by cooking and baking with peaches in the next couple of episodes. First, we're going to be making some peach and pecan praline breakfast muffins that are only going to have 205 calories per serving. Then we're going to be moving off to some peach and butterscotch blondies, which are going to be like brownies but even better. And they're only going to have 124 calories per serving. And finally, in our next episode following this one, we're going to be doing some cooking and grilling with the peaches, and we're going to be making a chicken and veggie quesadilla with shishito peppers, and we're going to grill that, and we're going to serve that with a delicious peach salsa. But first, let me tell you a little bit about peaches that you need to know for your health. Peaches have vitamin C, vitamin A, and potassium. In animal studies, they actually use rats to find that peach extract helped to lower cholesterol as well as blood pressure and blood sugar. They contain polyphenols and prebiotics that actually help with inflammation and therefore can help in some chronic diseases, even like cancer and Alzheimer's disease, as well as heart disease. They have soluble and insoluble fiber, so they can help to lower your bad cholesterol that way as well, and they are also good for our immune system. So I can't wait to get started. Come follow me to the kitchen. First, we're going to start by making the candied pecans. Only 2 ingredients for these. In a non-stick skillet over medium heat, we're going to stir together 1 cup of brown sugar and 1 cup of pecans. We're going to stir this for about 4 to 5 minutes, being sure to be pretty consistent in stirring, not leaving this or walking away. And as the sugar starts to melt after a few minutes, reduce the heat to low and continue to stir until all of the sugar is dissolved and coating the pecans. This will take up to 4 to 5 minutes to do. And optionally, you can also add a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then we're going to go ahead and spread these onto a piece of aluminum foil to cool down. Once you get them out of the pan, spread them out into an even layer and let them cool. And then we're going to chop these before we add these to the muffin mix. Next, let's move on to the muffin mix. In one bowl, we're going to start by adding the dry ingredients. We're going to mix together 1½ cups of all-purpose flour, followed by 1/4 cup of whole wheat flour, followed by 1/4 cup of unsweetened coconut. Then we're going to do 2 level teaspoons of baking powder, followed by 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, a pinch of salt. You can use regular salt or sea salt for that, and finally a 1/4 cup of white granulated sugar. And then we're going to move on to a second bowl where we're going to combine the wet ingredients, starting with 2 eggs. Then we're going to go ahead and add a 1/2 cup of applesauce, or 4 ounces, using one of these pre-measured little cups that I like to use. And then 1 full cup of non-fat vanilla Greek yogurt. Make sure you're getting the non-fat vanilla. And finally, we're going to go ahead and chop up 2 peaches, which will be about 1.5 cups of chopped peaches. I decided to leave the skin on for these for color. You don't even notice them after they're done baking. And then finally, we're going to add to this a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract and also an optional 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract. Then we're going to turn to the pecans and measure out 1/2 cup of those candied pecans and add those to the dry ingredient bowl. And we're going to stir those pecans into the flour before we add the wet ingredients to the flour mixture. And then we're going to stir that until it's all combined. Once it's combined, we set it aside. We preheat the oven to 350 degrees. Get out the 12-cup muffin tin and spray it lightly with olive oil nonstick spray. And then evenly distribute the batter into the muffin cups, trying to go up to the top of the cup. If you can, you should have just enough for 12. And then you're going to take the rest of those sugared candied pecans and evenly distribute those over the tops of the muffins before putting those in the oven to bake, I'm going to say between 19 and 20 minutes. And 20 minutes later, here we have it, the peach and pecan praline muffins. I'm going to cut into one of these so you can see how moist it is on the inside while these are still steaming and piping hot. And unbelievably, these are only 205 calories and 5.2 grams of protein, which makes these really the perfect breakfast muffin to enjoy in the summer. Now let's move on to those delicious peach and butterscotch blondies. First, in one bowl, we're going to start by measuring out some dry ingredients and starting with 2 cups of all-purpose flour and a 1/4 cup of whole wheat flour. And before we even do that, I did go ahead and blend up in my blender a cup of peach puree. You can actually use fresh or canned peaches for that, but I used fresh and I left the skin on. Okay, so after the whole wheat flour, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of cornstarch, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, and finally 3/4 teaspoon of salt. In a second bowl, we're going to add the wet ingredients, starting with that pretty peach puree. We're going to use a spatula to get that out of the blender. And then we're going to add to that the 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar, 1/4 cup of maple syrup, and 3/4 cup of granulated white sugar. To that, we're going to add the yolk of 1 egg, plus we're going to add 2 additional eggs to that as well. And finally, we're going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Then I'm going to grab a fork and whisk that gently with the fork until the eggs are combined before setting that aside and also combining the ingredients, the dry ingredients together with the fork in the other bowl. Then we're going to pour those wet ingredients into the dry ingredients and stir that up with the fork until combined completely. Next, I'm going to be adding, this time, slivered almonds, 1/2 cup of slivered almonds instead of the macadamia nuts, followed by 1 cup of butterscotch chips, and then we're going to add 1/4 cup of golden raisins to that, and lastly 1/2 cup of mini marshmallows. That just gives it that fun rocky road kind of texture that I like. Once we're done stirring that up, we're going to prepare a glass baking dish, a 13 by 9 baking dish. I'm going to go ahead and grab that and spray it down with some olive oil nonstick spray. And then I'm going to place a piece of parchment paper on top of that and then spray that paper also with the olive oil nonstick spray just to make sure we don't have any problems with sticking when we get done baking these. We're going to have that oven preheated to 350 degrees. We're going to spread this batter out into that baking dish till we have a nice flat layer, and then we're going to pop it in the oven for about 28 minutes. At the end of 28 minutes, you should have some delicious looking blondies. You can cut these into 32 small squares, and now we can see what they look like on the inside. So there you have it. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you really enjoyed these blondies. And remember, they're only 125 calories apiece.